The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the country. This is Jim Knowlton, Director of Coaching for Workman Success System, welcoming you to build a better business with buyers. We're really glad you could turn out today. We've got a really good turnout. We look forward to providing you with some really great information. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start by introducing our panelists. First, Mike Koch. Let me give you a little bit about Mike. Mike's a former Marine and worked in the golf business for many years. He began his full-time career in real estate in 2001 for a land management company, where he was the #1 salesperson there for many years. In 2009, he opened his company, Terra Firma Realty, in Wisconsin, and Mike has been coaching with me for about 1.5 years now. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Jim, for having me.
So tell me, Mike, when you think about building a better business with buyers and kind of the journey that you've gone on, give me your kind of opening and welcome to kind of what you see the highlights are and what the challenges and opportunities are.
Well, as it comes to buyers, there's certainly a lot of things that you need to take in account with the buyers and how you're working with those buyers from a lead management and nurturing process. But when we talk about buyers and also building a team, hiring buyer agents is an absolutely critical component of that. And there's certainly a process that needs to go in play when you're hiring those buyers agents.
Right. And what we'll do is we'll kick off here. We'll kind of give the overview of the 3 categories. After I introduce Sarah, Sarah is part of the Amalfi team in the LA area of California. She is very active in her community. We're fortunate to have her because on top of being a great agent, she also helped run the team for a couple years. So she can give us some insight on the actual administrative side of having buyer specialists and also of the hiring process. So good morning, Sarah, in your neck of the woods. Go ahead and give us your kind of feeling about building your business with buyers.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So out in our marketplace, because kind of the way our price range works and the kind of clientele that we work with, they really require a lot of time and a lot of focus and a lot of nurturing, and it's really a long-term game with a lot of our clients, and spending a lot of time looking for off-market properties for them and just staying in touch for many, many months until they really find a house they love and are ready to buy.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially in your market. I was with Rick Jiha last week, and he was talking about how you guys are actually setting a schedule. We list on Thursday, showings through Sunday, and then multiple offer response on Monday, right? So being able to find things that aren't for sale is an area where you can add a lot of value to your buyer clients, right? Absolutely.
The competition is really tough for especially the entry-level market properties, but it's very tough to get even a very well-qualified client to get an accepted offer. Can be really hard in the market right now. So off-market adds a lot of value.
Yeah, great point to start right out. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to let everybody on the call know what our topics are going to be today. So the 3 areas of building our business with buyers that we're going to cover is we're going to cover the hiring process. I think this is a big stumbling point for a lot of people. We're going to cover the compensation structure. We see compensation as coaches around the country all over the place. And the most important thing about having team members is, A, that they're able to bring home enough money to their families so that they can be successful, but also that the business is profitable, because without the business being profitable, then we're going to fail and we're not going to be able to provide good opportunities to our people. And then lastly, we're going to cover conversion, which Sarah has already nicely started us down that path. I was on a coaching call before this call, and we were talking a little bit, and Mark brought up the exact point that I wanted to talk about on this. So it's kind of interesting that even a current coaching client can be struggling with what he called it cherry picking. So let's start with an overview, and I'll kick it off, but let's start with an overview of the hiring process. And the way I'd like to structure this, guys, is I'm going to give you what we kind of find as coaches to be the struggle that people have, and then I'm going to give you the process that we at Workman believe solves that problem, and then I'm going to have our guest panelists kind of talk about how that's worked either in their business or from a brokerage perspective. So first up is going to be the hiring process. So from my experience, 3 years as director of coaching for Workman, when I start working with a team or an agent, the first thing they're going to tell me is, yeah, I've done that buyer thing before. I've tried to hire an admin, never get the right person. They don't want to work. They're not a good fit here for this company. So I really end up doing all the work anyway. And I really can't afford to give away those buyers because I need that money. So basically they've had a bad experience. Our process is that we follow a system for everything we do. So in the process of hiring, we're gonna go ahead and run an ad in several different venues. We're gonna have a process for inbound leads that includes getting specific information so we can kind of walk people through a process that's easier than hitting send. We're gonna do a phone interview or a voicemail interview, which is our primary screening tool. Then we're going to move to a DISC assessment. So we're going to do a personality profile. Once we know that we are heading in the direction of a fit, we're going to go ahead and do a comprehensive interview. And that comprehensive interview runs about an hour, hour and a half. Mike can give us some really good background on that. He's been going through that. And then lastly, we have our compensation review, our job description, and our employment agreement, as well as the most important part, which is reference checking. So Sarah, why don't you start us off, because you've been down both sides of that as the person checking all that stuff and the person going through it. Why don't you give us a little background on what you see as the importance of the hiring process to make sure we get the right person?
Yeah, so it can definitely be tough, and we have gone through a couple people on the office administrative or listings partner side until we found the right person, as well as looking for buyer's agents. But really what we found helps with hiring the buyer's agents is just knowing that they'll be a good fit for our team culture. And we have a couple of brand new agents who we knew these guys are going to be really hard workers. They're driven, they're sharp, they're talented, and they're going to work really hard and be great team players. That was something we really looked for. And then with some more of the experienced agents that we've hired, we love that they have the experience because we're a small team and we don't have a training program, but we also kind of knew we like their style. We know they're going to have a good personality fit with our team and in the area. And so that was something that was important as well, that we looked for.
So what I really heard in that, which I think is really cool, is you're saying, yeah, we're going to have to sell properties, but the fact is the most important piece is that they fit with the team, right?
Absolutely.
So you guys out there at Amalfi have a mission, vision, value, and belief statement, don't you?
We do. We donate 10% of our net commission back to a charity of the client's choice. That's something that's really important. We have core values that we've developed since starting to work with you guys that are really important, and we make sure everyone on our team embodies those core values. And there's been times where somebody on our team hasn't really embodied them, and they're no longer with our team because it wasn't a good fit.
And you guys are actively involved in the hiring process, so you sit in on some of the interviews, one or more of you do, correct?
Absolutely. We sit on some of the interviews, and even there's always a kind of a trial period too for a couple of months when someone does join our team, because we all need to help each other out. We all need to help each other cover showings and helping at open houses and being a team player, since we have a lot of listings and we only have 10 people on the team. And when there's been people that don't, not only don't help each other out, but don't even hold up their end of their responsibilities, then we know it's not somebody who we need at Amalfi Estates.
Right, because our team is only as strong as our weakest link, right?
Absolutely.
Great, thanks for that. Hey, Mike, so there's two very different markets that we're dealing with here. Sarah is in LA, so there's millions of people, and then we got Mike up in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin, like New Hampshire, which is where I'm from, we got quite a few less people. Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about your struggle over the last 3 or 4 months of having a lot more leads than you can manage because of IVR and some of the other systems you're using, and talk to them about how hard it was and what kind of happened at the end, which was pretty surprising and positive.
Yeah, so we have a lot of systems in place that generate a significant lead generation volume, and the amount of leads that we were getting in, we just couldn't handle it with the number of buyers agents that we had. So we saw a real need to certainly bring on more buyers agents. And that process certainly took a lot longer than I expected. I'd say my problem was the amount of time it took to find quality people. Now, we were pretty picky. We believe in hiring slow and firing fast. We want to find the absolute right fit. Sarah mentioned fit, and that's absolutely important for us too, is that we got to have the right fit, somebody who's going to fit our culture. There's a couple different ways to go about that hiring process and finding the right fit. And one of them is basically inbound marketing. It's very similar to lead generation on the buyer side, is inbound marketing for buyer agents. In addition to that is outbound activities. And the inbound is things like ads on Indeed, on Craigslist, utilizing Facebook to get people coming to you. The outbound activities are things like going out to Indeed.com and actually reviewing resumes that people are posting. It's taking a proactive role in recruiting and reaching out to agents that might be in your marketplace that are doing a certain level of volume that when they get into your team and into your systems, you can help them grow their business. So we had to start getting more engaged in the recruiting. I would say when we were doing just the inbound marketing, that there was a trickle of buyers agents that were even a fit worth taken to the next level of a phone interview. Once we started doing more of the outbound stuff is when we started seeing our pool of candidates climb. And matter of fact, right now we're in a situation where we're fully staffed up. We're really happy with where our team is at, but through our efforts, we found another candidate who we believe is going to be a good fit. And we're at a point right now where we're probably going to try to create a position for her when we don't have an absolute need, but we're going to create a position because she seems to be such a good fit.
Yeah, and so Mike, let's talk about it. We went looking for your buyers. Now you had 3 or 4 already, and we knew we needed 2 or 3 more. And we went 3 months before we really got our first good interview?
I would say it was a little bit longer than that, Jim. It might have been 4.5 months since until we had that first one.
And then that was the time you were really figuring out for your market the inbound and the outbound. And at that point, you were sending out blank X number of text messages and emails to your targeted realtor group, but you also had really refined your ads. And we found that first person that we were really happy to have. But what wasn't it, like a week later, that Ann went on and she actually found the perfect resume who hadn't applied, a lady, if I remember correctly, and she turned and reached out to that lady. And that's the lady you're saying is so fantastic that you're making a position for, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jim. And in addition to that, we have another candidate who, through our recruiting process of identifying those candidates might be a good fit based on their volume of business last year, we have another candidate that's in the mix that reached out to us from our recruiting efforts. So we're sending text messages out to these agents. We're sending emails out to these agents in an effort to try to provide something to them that they might not have where they're currently employed at and give them an opportunity to grow their business. So yeah, it really wasn't until we started all the outbound activities that we started building our pool of candidates. And that's what we realized is we really want to have a pool of candidates to pick from so that when we have a need, we're not filling it with somebody who's not the right fit, and we're not hiring for need, we're hiring for somebody who is the right fit and is going to fulfill that opportunity we have.
Right, and so we also have the ability to top grade. So when we bring somebody in, we can raise the standard of the whole team. And I think that's what Sarah was saying, which is if we're all on the same page as far as our mission, vision, value, and belief, then it's much easier when someone doesn't fit in to bring in the next great person. And that brings us all to a higher level. And Sarah, we were talking before we got on the phone back in January. Your buyer team or your team actually got together outside of the lead agent, and you guys did kind of a great little self-done promotion. Tell us a little bit about how synergy works and when people really hold each other accountable.
Yeah, so to start off the year, a couple of us on the team came up with a January challenge that we wanted to hold ourselves accountable to, which consisted of trying to get something like 6 open houses in the month, 4 call nights, getting our daily success habits to a certain number 5 times a week, and for those 4 weeks, really commit and hold each other accountable to that. And it worked really well. We were constantly looking at our spreadsheet and saying, okay, I need to make sure I get an open house on this Saturday and this Sunday and this Tuesday, or, which nights are we going to go to the call night? And it was great because, especially for starting off the year, a lot of the work that we put in January really pays off, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. Go ahead.
And your lead agent, he wasn't too upset that you guys picked this thing up and kind of ran with it on your own, was he?
No, he was totally fine that we, as the buyer's agents or the sales partners, really just took the initiative to do that on our own, and to probably do another one.
And so, any of you out there listening, if you're a broker owner or lead agent of a team, how would it feel like if your team was so strong and together that they actually brought you this great reward program that they were just holding each other accountable for? I mean, I think that is the essence of great management and great hiring. So thank you guys so much. We're going to move to our next topic, but before I change, we do have the question section open. So if any of you out there listening, and there's quite a few of you, have any questions, go ahead and type them in. At the end, with probably 15 or 20 minutes left, we will open up for any questions if you want to do it by call-in. But go ahead and type us a message now, and we'll address all of those as they come in. So next up, guys, we're going to cover what I think is the more tricky part. Well, I think they're both equally tricky, but I think is probably where most people have a limiting belief about something they can't do, which is compensation. So let's talk a little bit from my perspective, what we hear people doing with compensation and what we recommend or ask people to do as part of coaching. The majority of people, when I do initial calls or start to work with teams that I'm coaching with, we're going to find that their compensation is all over the board. As a matter of fact, it can be all over the board, even within a specific team. We have, team agent lead numbers, and we have, individual, my own sphere of influence, and then we have a special because we can't get people to do open houses, which goes right back to our hiring process, which is when we hire somebody, we let them know that as a buyer specialist, they're going to do a minimum of 2 open houses a month. 3 in the summer is even better. But we have people picking up 6, 8, 10 leads per open house. So as soon as they see the open house done correctly, they don't mind doing them. But compensation generally tends to be something people do out of pain. Someone comes in, Mike actually has a great story about this one, but someone comes in and says, I want X. Our plan says that we're paying Y, and what we don't have is we don't have the value proposition of the team. We don't know why we would come to work for the team, so we tend to fall back. So a lot of times we'll see people trying to compete with national brokerages on an 80-20 or a 70-30 to the agent. And the problem being is we know that these giant market centers to run a 70-30 number need a minimum of 85 to 100 agents to be profitable. So when we do it in our 10, 12, 15 person office or team, we know we're not going to be profitable there. And the problem we have is that we haven't built the vision or the value statement to hire people. So let me go over that with you now. What we believe after 20 years of coaching is the correct structure for a buyer team. What we believe is that it's a tiered system and it goes on closings per month. So we expect that every buyer team specialist is going to do at least 2 transactions a month. That's the minimum to stay on the team. And the first transaction is going to be on a 60-40 split to the team. The second that month is going to be on a 55-45. And then the third obviously would be 50-50, and then the fourth would be 45-55 to the agent. So we're always looking to get more production. So the way we do that is we tier that. A lot of people are probably squirming in their chairs out there, and the reason being is they've interviewed people and they've had a very difficult time showing value in that. So what I'd like to do is hop over to Mike for a minute. Mike, so we kind of went down this journey, didn't we, with you and your people as you were trying to find new people and explain to them the value of becoming part of a team.
Absolutely. When people are looking at ads and seeing that one team is willing to split and pay 80% to the agent, and another team is going to be paying 40% to the agent, they think right away they're going to be taking a pay cut. And if you can spend a few minutes with them to show them how it's not the case, how they're actually going to take more money home to their family, it can be very powerful.
And that's something that we have to know about, right? Because we know that the average agent does less than 10 transactions a year, pays for their own expenses, and we know that NAR says they end up somewhere in the low 30s. But we know across our system that the average range for a 24-unit buyer specialist is going to be between 65 and 75 for their first year, because that's a 2 minimum. But then after that, we immediately have people moving up into the 100, 125, 150 range. So what they need to see is that here we're going to do a lot more production, we're going to have a lot more money generating activities, and we're going to make more money and bring it home to our families, right? And that's a story we need to learn to tell, right, Mike?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we got to tell, is a story about how this is going to impact their family and how it's going to be a positive, not a negative. It's not just all about the commission and the split.
Right. 100% of nothing is nothing, right?
Correct.
So we say a lot of times there's different types of teams. You know, one team is a lead agent who comes from pain and basically gives all the junk. Another one is a lead agent who, you know, doesn't really provide lead generation, so we're not getting a lot. So therefore, a lot of people have gone into a situation where they're not getting anything for their 50-50 split. So therefore, they don't see value in it. But that's something that we want our buyer team members to stay with us forever, because they're a valued part of the team, right?
Correct.
Sarah, so Sarah's in a really unique position. I would say lucky to some extent. So Sarah, the majority of properties you sell are what price range?
The average price range in the Palisades is $4 million right now. So kind of between 2 and 8 is pretty average right now.
So Mike and I are falling out of our chairs, because that's like 20 transactions for us. The important part in the beginning of this, when Anthony and you probably were still on the admin team there, but in the beginning, you know, Anthony would talk to people and he would say, this is our plan. And you guys couldn't get people out of bed to go show $1 million or even $2 million properties, never mind try to get a fair spread, huh?
Absolutely. So that's definitely something that we've noticed. A lot of agents that we have tried to recruit are resistant to is the team concept. It's not very prevalent in our marketplace, because agents can sell a couple properties a year and, you know, earn enough money to be okay. And Anthony was just at the point where we couldn't handle, he had to turn down business because the three of us couldn't handle it. And so definitely using you know, we have 2 different splits basically. We have a 50-50 split if the buyer comes from any team generated lead. So either whether it's an open house or Zillow or a direct referral from Anthony, because Anthony now, our team leader, has this policy where he will no longer work with a buyer. He's going to refer that buyer out and spend his time generating more listings, so then in turn we can get more buyers. And if it comes from our personal sphere of influence, then we have a 70% split. So it still encourages us to work our sphere of influence, get business on our own, but there's still a lot of value in being part of the team and getting Anthony's leads as well.
Yeah, and you know, one of the biggest things, and I think this is true of your side of the world, Sarah, is, you know, when we start talking to people about the split, you guys had people, and you know, we do require within the Workman group that we follow up on all our leads, and we're going to talk about that in conversion. But you had people that literally would refuse to show like $1 million and $2 million houses, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there's, you know, the lowest priced home is $2 million in the Palisades, pretty much. But yeah, there's obviously some people that weren't going to spend the time following up with those people, or also leases. We do a lot of leases as well. And you don't make much money on leases, but it's just something that our team offers, and we see it as kind of a loss leader where, yeah, we're not making any money, but it's just something that our team does to show our clients that we're going to work hard for them, not just for the money, but because that's what we do as a team. Yeah, so definitely tough. Another thing that was hard for us to kind of overcome, because we don't really see the team set up so much in LA, is the branding. A lot of people wanted to have their names be on everything. And that was something, again, that we were really struggling to kind of, you know, compel them to join the team, because they wouldn't want to have Anthony's name on all of their business. But once again, we said, hey, you're only doing 1 or 2 sales a year. Wouldn't you rather be doing 10 sales a year and not have your name on it? You know, some people are fine with that. Others didn't join the team.
So it goes right back to that thing that Mike said, which is it matters how much money you bring home to your family. It doesn't matter what your split is. Doesn't matter what. It matters, are you making a living that you want and bringing home enough money to your family, right?
Absolutely.
So we were talking before we got on the call, and it's kind of a funny story we use in coaching because, again, I think we probably have some people that are still kind of questioning, first of all, can I get people to come work on this 50-50 net split, which is what it ends up being? And if I did, why would that make sense? So I'm gonna use a story we use with new coaching clients a lot. I'm gonna have Mike play my new client. Hey, so Mike, I'd like to go into business with you. I was wondering if you might be interested to hearing my story.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm a really great agent. I sell a lot of houses. I've won a lot of awards. I'm the top person in my market center and in my state. I've been doing this forever. So, if I come to work for you, it's going to be fantastic, and we're going to do a lot. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to come out to Wisconsin, but I want you to set up an office. I want you to hire all the people. I want you to get a business and phone and internet and cable and all that stuff. I want you to get it all set up and get everything ready and take all the risk. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and sell for you. And then to sell for you, I'm gonna keep 70% of the gross. Does that sound like a good deal to you?
No, it sounds like a pretty one-sided deal, Jim. I don't think that's going to work out.
Right. But yet, don't we hear all across the country of people offering these types of splits, which really they're trying to compete with offices that have a lot more people, which is what makes that work, as opposed to looking at what the number is that allows the team to do Zillow, Trulia, run a great top 50, run a great SOI plan, have all of the tools to be bringing in and capturing all of our leads, as opposed to being skimping by and being in that pain model, which is we're really not providing a lot, even for our 20 or 30%, splits, right?
Right.
If we didn't need help in business, I think that the gym memberships and all of those other kind of really off-brand models would have put us out of business a long time ago, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, the other thing I like to touch on compensation is, and both Sarah and Mike tell me if you found this, we are not looking to hire every agent that's going to work. There are agents that are going to be great individual agents. There are agents that are going to be great team lead agents eventually, and there are agents that are going to be great team members, and they get as much out of it as we do. The key is to find the ones that fit our mission, vision, value, and belief, and are going to be those great team players, so that when Sarah or Mike wants to go on vacation, they know somebody's covering them, and they know it's not at a 25 or a 35 or a 50% split, because we help each other, right? So talk a little bit about that, Sarah.
Yeah, so we have a group text message going, and anytime somebody can't show for all of our listings, we assign one of our buyer's agents to be that showing point person for that property, and they're in charge of coordinating with agents that want to show it or buyers that call directly to show it. And then any buyer is their lead that calls on that property or comes to the open house they're sitting for that property. But obviously, people have other appointments, maybe they're inspections, maybe they're out of town for the week, and we have a group text that goes around and it just says, hey, can anyone cover my showing at such and such property at this time? And very often it gets covered. And it's, that it's worth it to do it for that person, because maybe in 2 weeks, you're going to be out of town and you need that team member to cover one of your appointments.
Yeah. And it's great to know you have that coverage. And the fact is that people expect more today. They're looking for faster response. And there's only so much we can do in a day, especially if we're going to balance, our family life and our business life. And we definitely want to keep that balance, because this business will take every minute you have. Mike, so let's talk a little bit about finding that right fit, or finding that person who understands the value of the team, and how we identify people that maybe are going to be better team leaders or individual agents, as opposed to people who are going to be better on our team.
Yeah, so we have a process that, thank you to you, Jim, for helping us implement this hiring process to make sure that somebody's going to be the right fit. But, we run these ads, and like you mentioned, we had to tweak our ads a little bit. We ran an ad, didn't have much of a response for a couple of weeks, changed up the ad, and we know that different triggers trip different people. So Our process is once we have an inbound lead, it goes to my operations manager. She goes ahead, looks at the resume, looks at the cover letter, sets up a 15-minute phone interview with them. If that phone interview goes good, and basically we want that client, that candidate talking a lot, us not talking much, them talking most of the time. We want to hear how they sound on the phone, because these are the people that are going to be talking to our clients. If they pass that phase, then they go to a face-to-face interview, which Ann will start that process. She'll do a 45, 50-minute face-to-face interview, and then if it's going well, she'll bring me in for about a 20-minute interview, and I have some pre-scripted questions that I'll ask. If it goes well, then we also have them complete a DISC assessment so that we can determine the behavior of that individual in their natural and adaptive settings. If they proceed past that, we go to a second face-to-face interview with both my operations manager and myself, and then we have our business coach interview them as a last step. So we really put them through the grind to make sure that they're going to be a great fit for our team.
Yeah, and the part I heard during that, and I think a lot of people listening probably did too, is, wow, that sounds like it takes a lot of time. And, usually when we need to hire somebody, it's because we really needed somebody 3 or 4 months ago, right?
Right. And then the step I forgot that I actually added some that time too is the reference checking. Most times people will check 3 references, and those first 3 are going to probably be friends, family, coworkers, and they're obviously going to be glowing reviews. But what you've taught us is that we want to go 3 deep on each of those references. So we're actually checking 9 references, and the further you get away from level 1, the more truth you're hearing about that candidate. So that's really important in determining the right fit. But it is a lengthy process, and the only thing I could share with any team leaders that are on this call is start the hiring process before you need that candidate, because it will take longer. And once you have filled your team and you're satisfied, don't stop that process. Keep that ongoing so that you can continue to top grade your team. And if you do have a void, you have hopefully somebody to slide in there right away, and it's not a 3 or 4 month process all over again.
Wow, thanks, Mike. That was awesome, and you led us right into a great question from the group. The question says, what would an agent who's looking for to become a member of a team, how would they look, and what questions would they ask to find a dynamic team that's going to be different than these pain teams or this we'll give you the low leads or whatever? One of you guys want to start off with that? And I kind of have a good idea for the wrap up on that. So Mike, how would people find teams like yours or like Sarah's?
Well, I think that when you're looking for a team, you're looking for a place to hang that license, that you're really looking to be part of a team, not a team that's maybe going to trickle down the worst leads to you, not a team where you're going to be an independent agent, but you're going to be an integral part of that team. You're going to be a buyer agent on that team, and you're going to be looking for the support of that team. So I think that more important than the commission split is going to be the value that team is going to deliver to you. Are they going to be providing leads to you? Are they going to have support? Are you going to be able to have access to that broker to help you with your transactions? Is there going to be a transaction coordinator and a client care coordinator to help you facilitate that? Are you going to be engaged in that process from offer acceptance to close? We have a client care coordinator who, as soon as that offer is accepted, the offer goes off to the client care coordinator. And it's not that it's handed off and the client doesn't know it. They're fully prepped for this, but it allows our buyer's agents to get back out there and help the next family instead of being stuck with a transaction all the way to close. You're going to be looking for the value of the lead generation. You're going to be looking for the value of the systems that are in place. I know you're going to talk about conversion later on, but you can put certain systems in place to help you with that. So at the end of the day, are you going to be joining a team where you're going to be an independent agent doing your own thing, and then you're probably going to be stuck in that 7 to 11 transactions a year? Or are you going to be joining a team that's going to help you grow your business, and you should be doing the minimal acceptable level of at least 2 deals a month? It all comes down to value.
So in your team and in Sarah's team, the key job of a buyer specialist is going to be to find, show, and negotiate contracts, and everything else should be done by the team, therefore allowing us to do, double, triple, whatever. I was on a call with one of my team leaders today. His top person is doing 6 a month and needs a showing assistant now because she's consistently doing 6. Sarah, give us a little insight into how you would go and find a team like yours if you moved to a new area.
So I think I would probably do the same thing that I did when I first started working with Anthony, actually, what I did was I went through the Wall Street Journal list, and now there's a list of all the top producing teams as well as individual agents. And I emailed every single one that made up the list within the last couple of years that was in LA. So I would probably do the same thing for whatever city I moved to. And I just said, hey, I'm a buyer's agent. I work with buyers. I'm looking to work with a team. Are you looking to hire anybody? So I reached out to people that did not post ads, did not give any indication that they were looking for somebody at all. But I got quite a few responses, and I met with quite a few people. And I had met even with people that were doing more business than Anthony was at the time, but I could tell he was a really good fit. I really liked him, and that I liked the direction he was moving in. And luckily he wanted to work with me as well. So that's probably what I would do if I had to join another team somewhere else.
Geez, that's a great idea. I never would have thought to go to the Wall Street Journal and actually and look to interview teams that way. But what a great idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone looks at that list in LA. It's a famous list. So that's what I decided to do.
And Jim, I think it's important for those agents on the call too to know that even beyond the value, they got to find a fit. Is that team leader, is that broker owner that's going to be running that team, are they a good fit? Are they going to work together? And do they fit in well with the other members of that team? If they have like culture and a like fit, it's not going to be a job anymore. It's going to be something fun. It's going to be a career path. They're going to enjoy coming to work, and they're going to be a lot more productive because of that.
Yeah, thank you. We just got another question in here. It says, you mentioned a split of 45-55 after the third deal. Is it the month-to-month basis, or do you stay with the 45 the rest of the year? No, there's different. It's based on your area. Obviously, we don't believe in seasonality. We believe seasonality comes in because we don't do consistent actions. And for winter or Thanksgiving and Christmas, we take our foot off the gas after Thanksgiving, and then we're surprised December is slow. But we do have to recognize that there is seasonality in certain markets. Florida, winter is busy. New Hampshire, summer is busy. But we can still take our unfair advantage at any time of the year. So we normally, for most places, will do the unit volume breakdown monthly, but in some places they will go on to winter schedules where it might be done quarterly, or at least we do quarterly to make sure people are doing their minimum. So say a place that's really remote, and in the winter their volume drops quite a bit by MLS standards. What we might do is for the 2 a month, we might put them on a 3-year average, okay, or 3-month average, which is going to give them the ability to be treated fairly and not to be docked because they didn't do their 2. Does that make sense to the panelists too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Mike, do you do yours monthly, or do you do yours in a quarter?
Ours is actually split just a little bit differently than that. It still ranges from 40 to 50, but it's more determined on if it's an in-house sale or if it's something that's co-broked.
Okay, fantastic. I got another question here, but before I get on that, let me hop on the next section. We'll do another question here in a minute. So our next topic is going to be conversion, and I think I want to back up a little on conversion, and I'm going to tie this back into hiring and maybe even the very beginning, which is why do we build a buyer business to begin with? So just guesstimated numbers over the many years we've been doing this. I believe, and I'll take Mike and Sarah's input on this, but we believe that it takes an agent 3 to 5 hours to list a house. Okay, so as a listing specialist, it should take us 3 to 5 hours to find the lead, to build the relationship, to get the paperwork signed, and get it as a listing. For a buyer specialist, we believe it takes 10 to 15 hours to do that same task. Very labor intensive. Sarah was talking about even, being looking for offsite or stealth inventory. So one of the things that we counsel our coaching clients on is, if we're going to spend 3 times the time, we're far better off to focus on our specialty, which for a lead agent should be listing, team leader, broker should be listing, and then give great opportunities to our buyers team. So what we want to do is, if we're an individual agent transitioning from individual to a team, we want to estimate the number of sides or the dollar volume of our buyer business the year before, and our first buyer's agent should be doing at least enough to cover that. Normally we're going to double down right out of the gate. So remember, the reason that we're even looking at a buyer team is, and I think Sarah said this, that when Sarah's lead agent does a better job, it's more houses, which means more leads to you, right, Sarah?
Yeah, the more fresh listings we have, the better open houses, the better buyer leads we get.
Right, so the better he does his job, the better it is for you, right?
100%.
Right. All right. So let's go now. Let's talk a little bit about conversion, and both Sarah and Mike are going to be able to help a lot here because they have firsthand knowledge in this. So within Workman Success Systems, what we've seen over the years is when we go into a team like Mike's, probably like Sarah's, although I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. What we find is, and it's not special to Mike or Sarah, but what we find is that if there's a buyer team in place, they're normally doing what most people would call cherry picking, but what we would call just managing what we call A leads. Now, A leads to us are leads that are active and we have an appointment with, and they should be under contract in less than 45 days, 30 to 45 days. We then have B leads that are kind of our mid-range, and the program is slightly different on the times and dates, but to make it easier for you listening, our B leads are going to be 90 plus or minus 30 days. And we're going to talk to them twice a month. And then lastly, and this is where the money is, and I think Mike will hop on this because he's kind of in a vacation market, if you want to call it that. Our C's are our people that are 180 plus. These are people that say, I'm going to buy a house next year. These are people who say, I'm going to buy a vacation home in Florida in the fall or in the winter. And C's are where the real money comes from, because when we're managing an ABC, we have consistency in our contact, and we know that conversion in a real estate transaction happens between about the time. Hey, you guys okay? Somebody mute there?
I think somebody's filling their ice maker up.
Nice. Okay, you guys all right?
Yeah, go over here.
Good.
All right, so with our A, B's, and C's, we contact our A's weekly, we contact our B's twice a month, the second and fourth weeks, and we contact our C's the third week, and we use the same dialogue. So when we talk about conversion, let's start the conversation, Sarah, with tell me the change between before you guys started following the system, the Workman system, and where you are now. And I think actually your January challenge kind of fits in there too.
Yeah, so we were pretty haphazard before we started following the schedule and kind of defining the A, B, and C's. It was more just Anthony like, oh, make these appointments for this buyer, or just somebody would kind of randomly email back from one of the automated MLS systems, or he would say, oh, look for pockets for this guy. But then we realized we have no system. We didn't have a CRM program that we used. We didn't have lead tracker, and we didn't have enough buyer's agents to follow up. So now that we're on the system, we all have a lead tracker where we put in leads for open houses, Zillow. Anthony now, if he has a personal referral that a buyer that he's been working with, or somebody refers him directly, then he takes the time to think who on the team is the best fit to work with this buyer. He passes that person on to them, and we explain how the team works, that yes, you still have Anthony, the team leader, who will help negotiate, but now you have this buyer specialist to focus on getting you into off-market properties if they need to, and focus on, really getting them in their home when they're ready.
Yes. So back just to a second for hiring and for compensation. One of the questions that one of the guests asked is, how do you find a good team? And you guys both had great answers for that. But one of the other things is anytime someone promises me as a specialist, a buyer specialist coming into a team, that I'm going to have 100% leads provided, that to me is a huge red light. And the reason being is a great team is going to teach you to run your business within their business, so you bring home more money to your family. And that's running your top 50, that's running your SOI, and that's running your ABCs, because what we want is double the power, not half the power, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. You want someone who knows that if the Zillow leads are slow for 6 months, maybe, that they still have business that they can do on their own, and be self-sufficient and be motivated to do their own business as well. And you also want to make sure you have somebody that is good at open houses. We get a lot of business from open houses, and we want to make sure that we have agents who interact really well with people that walk in, who get them to sign in, and who follow up with open house leads as well.
Right, which is an excellent tie-in, Sarah, back to DISC. We obviously look for our people that deal with the public to be very high I. So I is interpersonal or interested. DISC is we could do a whole webinar just on DISC, but part of that whole thing is when we're looking at putting the right people on the boat, we need to make sure that people that are dealing with the public are really going to be comfortable and happy doing that, because they're going to have a better day and the client's going to have a better experience, right?
Yeah.
So Mike, let's hop over to you a little bit. I got a couple questions to jump on after this, but talk to me a little bit about the change in conversion in your team. And did that happen overnight? And I guess, Sarah, when Mike's done, you can hop on too, but did that happen overnight, or was that kind of a journey?
It was definitely a journey, and it was something that I had to pull the team along, and I had to show them that there was, value in doing that. We all know to convert, not only do you have to be solid on the phone, we actually practice scripts. Quite often we role play at least 3 times a week, but in addition to being good on the phone and being able to convert and close when you're on the appointment, it's all about the touch. And how many touches are you going to have with that contact over what period of time? We have actually, Workman Systems provided us with the 7 days of indoctrination. So we uploaded that to our top producer, and every new buyer lead that comes in, we put on that 7 days of indoctrination where they're receiving 1 email from us each day for the first 7 days. We also have touches that we have to do by phone and by text messaging, so that we have a high volume of touches in a very short period of time to engage them. When we sat down with our team, basically we did 2 things. One is we want to talk about the touches. I brought some studies to the table that showed them how many touches it takes in order to convert a client. One thing we learned from a study that was done at MIT was that 30% of leads are never contacted at all. Only 15% of agents attempt a second call, and only 3% reach out to somebody 6 times. However, through the study, and it was 100,000 call attempts, they found that by the 6th attempt, 90% of the contacts had been reached. So we learned that you can have a 70% increase in your contact rate just by making a few extra calls. So if they're receiving 30, 40 leads a month and they're making 1 or 2 sales a month, what could they do if they converted 70% more of their leads to sales because they were touching them more frequently? So we brought a little bit of science into the conversation, and then from there we also talked about the quickness at which we had to get to those people. We used to have leads protected for 24 hours. If a lead came in, it was protected by whoever was on floor for 24 hours. However, we found out that you were 400% more likely to reach that lead in the first 5 minutes than you were at 10 minutes, and that you were significantly stronger chance of reaching them in the first 5 minutes than you were in the first hour. So I asked my team, I said, what do you guys feel is fair in terms of our response time? And they felt that that was going to be 15 minutes. So in that one meeting with my team, we went from buyers being protected for 24 hours to buyers being protected for 15 minutes. Now they lose some, but they also gain some. But it was the best solution. It was better for the team as a whole, and it was better for the client.
And it took them a while to buy in too, didn't it? It wasn't, even though they were going to bring home more money to their families, they still kind of struggled with the concept of having a job, if we want to call it that.
Correct. Yeah, it definitely took some time. It took some buy-in, but now they're all on board. And if it's not their floor day, they still have an opportunity to pick up leads in the 16th minute if the person on floor is not able to respond. So it goes around. It's full circle.
Yeah, so let me explain Mike's system. All leads come into a central portal. They have a duty time schedule. If you're on the duty time schedule, you have 15 minutes to claim the lead and contact it. If you don't contact it in the 16th minute, someone else can grab it. So if somebody has less leads or is just starting out, they have the ability to use kind of a trickle-down method. Or if somebody's really awesome, they just get in there every day and manage them. But then they have to do what we call daily success habits. And they have to share them in a daily huddle. And what daily success habits or the points that go along with those are, is they actually have to show the team leader that they're making their contacts to get 61 points, which is the level of success for a great buyer specialist. Right, Mike?
That's correct.
I got a couple of questions here. Let me touch on these, and then I'll open back up to Sarah for any other thoughts she has about this topic. So somebody asked me if the 10 to 15 hours is just nurturing. And I'll take, I think Sarah would be a good one to answer this. Her market is even more special. I consider the 15 hours from the time we get in contact with a lead to showing them, especially in an inventory situation like we have now, showing them multiple properties, 3, 5, 6 properties, missing a few, then getting them through the contract acceptance. That to me is the 10 to 15 hours. What do you think about that number, Sarah?
I think it would be nice if that was always the number of hours, that being 10 to 15 hours. I think often, especially in our marketplace, it can be much more than that. But I do agree that buyers take up a lot of time. And I think what's something good to remember is you can really, or at least I know I can really only focus on a few buyers at a time, really searching for properties for them, really, nagging, for lack of a better word, to them to get into properties. There's a lot of people who they would buy something if it, the right property came up right away, and it takes a lot of pushing sometimes on our end. Text messages, email, hey, I think you got to get in and see this property. Can you meet me at the open house? When can you see it this week? Like I know Mike was saying too, you don't always get a response right away, and you've got to ask them again. And it's that number of touches sometimes that they realize, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't get back to you. I've been really busy. Thank you for following up. Let's get in this day.
So Sarah, it's funny. I find a lot of people when I ask them what they do for work, they tell me that they're in the marketing business or they're in the promotion business. But you're telling to me you're really a salesperson. You're digging for leads. You're trying to find the best house for a person. So when we're looking for that value determination, either for a client who's going to work with us or somebody who's going to come on our team, I think you just described it perfectly, which is this isn't a sideline to you. This is your business. You want to know more about what's going on in this market, and you want to be able to tell somebody the reason they're going to buy a $4 million house from you is because, darn it, you've been in every one of them, and you know what it should go for, and you're going to represent them. This isn't something you do when you can't find listings.
Absolutely. That's what we do. Someone will call and say maybe they only want to work with listing agents, or maybe, they'll only buy something exactly this, and then we look for that and we find it. Something else I want to say about, showing them, adding our value is we get really creative in what we do, not only to find them a house, but once they're in escrow or something that we do for our sellers, if they're selling a house, we offer basically concierge level of service. We'll bring contractors to the properties that maybe buyers are looking at to make sure they can do the kitchen remodel that they want to do. We will meet the movers or meet the painters or meet the stagers at people's houses if we need to do that. We set up 12 inspections for every property, and we tell them this is what we do for you. You don't have to lift a finger if you want to work with us. We handle everything for you. We get you the, whatever they might need, interior designer or a pool remodel guy, whatever they need, we can provide them and show them a lot of value we can add that way, because, everyone has access to the MLS and in addition to the pockets, that's something that we really stress as well.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And that kind of service obviously is what's grown that team to its size and dominance in your area. So that's fantastic. I'm going to touch on another question real quick. Somebody asked me to repeat, and I think what they were asking me to repeat was the ABC, so I'll do it a little slower. Panelists, stand by for half a second. A leads, either buyer or seller, are active and we have an appointment. So if your coach said to you, how many A buyers do you have? So if I said to Sarah, how many A buyers do you have? And she said, I have 5. I'm going to say, open your Google Calendar and show me the 5 appointments. Right, Sarah?
Yep.
B's are going to be our mid-range. And again, remember, I'm making the numbers easier. The program runs it a little bit differently. But B's are our mid-range. Let's call them 90 plus or minus 30. And we're going to contact them twice a week. And then C's are our 180 plus, and we're going to contact them once a month. So weekly for A's, the 2nd and 4th week of the month for B's, and C's are going to be the 3rd week of the month. Okay?
Jim, I think it's important to touch on those C's. You mentioned that the gold was in the C's before, and before this call, I looked at my transaction tracker to look at this number. You know, it's really important to touch these people for a long time and nurture them. Everybody's on a different buying cycle, and when I looked at my transaction tracker, we have 9 sides that we've closed so far this year that have been from the leads that came into our system in 2014. We nurtured them for 3 years. So the A's are the people that are probably going to be buying now, but the gold is in the C because that's something that you can actually build a book of business off. You're going to have a lot more C's than you are A's naturally, but if you continue to nurture them, keep in touch with them, that's what you're going to build your future business off of, not the immediate future of the A's. So the nurturing is absolutely critical.
Yeah, the only way to really check that is with our daily huddles, our weekly meetings, you know, our daily success habit sheets, our My Perfect Week. And the reason being is we forget, we get busy. What most agents, you know, we see when they're coming into coaching is that they are very entrepreneurial by nature and they tend to fix whatever's noisiest, not what's best for them. And the whole point of growing a business, whether it be being a great buyer's agent in a great team like Sarah is, or having a great brokerage and team like Mike has is we're trying to build people that stay with us forever. You know, when we're going through the hiring process, our goal is 3 to 5 years minimum. I mean, look at Sarah. Sarah, you actually targeted the very best people because that's the only place you wanted to be, right?
Yeah, I really knew that I wanted to be on the west side, or I, you know, looked into the Beverly Hills area a little bit, but wasn't a good fit with those people. And I knew exactly what I wanted and reached out to them, and it worked out great.
All right, so lastly, if anybody has any questions, we've got about 3 to 5 more minutes. Chat, I don't know if somebody can raise their hand. If anybody wants to raise their hand in the system, go ahead and ask a live call because you don't like to type. That's okay too. Or if you have any other questions, go ahead and throw them in. I'm going to give both Mike and Sarah just 1 extra minute to talk about the importance of building a business on the buyer side. Why don't we start with you, Sarah?
Yeah, so it's important to get the buyers because, you know, they refer a lot of clients. They may turn into listings one day, and maybe depending on how your team handles listings, that's something that you get some commission out of as well. And it's always good to have the pipeline down the road because a buyer you meet today is maybe somebody that's going to be business for you in 4, 6, or, you know, a year down the road.
Great, thanks. That's a good point. Yes, some teams offer, you know, like referral fees for buyers that you get as part of an open house. We do that here in my team. Mike, any thoughts that you have on the importance of buyer business and buyer team members?
Well, it's absolutely critical. You know, it's going to be a big part of any business that is being built. So in terms of buyer's agent, I can't stress enough for you team leaders to always basically be hiring. Start the process before you need to. Keep it going after you feel like you're filled. For the agents out there and lead nurturing and conversion, I can't stress enough the importance of speed to lead. Get back to those leads ASAP within the first 5 minutes if possible, and then the nurturing process. So keep touching them. Even if you don't reach them, reach out to them 4, 5, 6 times and put them on some kind of a drip campaign so that you've always got a way to stay top of mind for them.
Hey, so Mike, we've got a specific question for you. It says, in addition to following up phone calls, is there any other actions you're doing to stay in touch with your C's?
Texting is big. You know, texting is big. Those C's, maybe if they're in your local market and not in a secondary market like some of ours are, you know, stop by their house. Do a pop by every once in a while. Texting is big. If you're into video, you can certainly do that. We found that we've actually had higher level engagement out of texting people than calling people. And then if they're in your Cs, they should be set up on some type of a market snapshot, whether it's through your MLS, through the back end of your website, or utilizing the market snapshot that Top Producer offers. You should be dripping properties on them, because that is the most important drip that you could have set up for them, is properties that they're actually interested in.
Yeah, and one of the things that came out in one of my coaching calls last week was one of my teams, which is about an 8-person buyer team, has gone to the autoresponder that when anything comes in that has a textable number from Zillow, Boomtown, Realtor.com, Homes.com, the text that goes out immediately says, "Great, what time do you want to see the house?" So the initial engagement has nothing to do, and we believe greatly in lead qualifying and do an LP Mama script. But the fact is we got to get the engagement to get there. And this team has found it very effective to answer every inbound contact with, "Great, when do you want to see the house?" and get better contact information, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I think the various methods of touch are so important today, because people tune out to any one. But I think, again, giving them what they need, and then from there we can qualify. Most teams have a policy where they'll show 1 or 2 times before they get a buyer broker agreement. And again, that's another huge thing if you're running a buyer business, is you don't want your people running around willy-nilly. So we got to build that into our process. So that's great. Any other questions? Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank my panelists. Sarah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all you added over there, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Mike, thanks again. I appreciate all you guys did. Chet back in the office, thank you so much. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to email those into the company. We did provide you with our free handouts for today. I believe we're doing the comprehensive interview questions. Hang on, I got to close the screen and I can tell you exactly what we're doing. Hang on. I can only see the comprehensive interview questions, but go ahead and I'm sure Chet has shared the material list with you. There it is right there. Hang on, let me bring this down. Thanks, Chet. So we have the buyer agent ad, which is fantastic. As Mike said, you got to adjust it a little bit. The comprehensive interview questions, and then the magic script, the LP Mama script. So just go ahead and go to workmansuccess.com/build-better to get those. And I thank you all for your time. Panelists, thank you so much. And Chet, thanks for helping out. We'll talk to you all next time.
Thanks
very much, Jim.
Bye-bye, guys.